You guys good over here? Okay. The following is the agenda. You can read that, Kathy, or you want me to? I can do it. The following is the agenda for the regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes, Passaic County, to be held in Pompton Lakes Municipal Building, 25 Lennox Avenue, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, Wednesday, September 25th, 2019, beginning at 7:30. Call?
You gotta read it.
Well, no, I gotta...
Call
No. Call to order, yeah, but she has to do a, I'm sorry, call to order, okay.
And that's because
Yeah. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Friends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Riker. Here. Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman Devine.
Here.
Councilman Giacometto.
Here.
Councilwoman Polidori. Here. Councilman Bennett.
Here.
Also with us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Bragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyle.
Okay, thank you. Under my presentation and updates, I just want to let everybody know that our clerk took a little bit of a fall. She's fine, but she'll be out for a while. So this is the first time that Mrs. Trost will be helping us with the agenda. So please go slow and help her work her way through her first time. There's a lot of things she has to do at once, and she's not really used to it. So if she asks you to slow down or ask a question, let's just do that for her. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Devine, Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, Helene Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. I'm here on behalf of the League of Women Voters. A few announcements. Just a reminder to all of you and anybody from the public that the candidates forum is next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, October 2nd, at the high school. So we invite everybody to come. It's a free program, and it's a great way for voters to hear from all of the candidates. The other thing was, last week we went to the high school and we registered about 60, actually more than 60, because some kids took the application forms back with them, 17-year-olds. They can register at 17. Of course, they can't vote until they're 18. The 18-year-olds were registered last year, but the kids were great. They were so excited about the notion of voting. They were polite and wonderful, and it was the first time I had done it, so it was a really good experience. And lastly, the League has these great reference pamphlets, and we have some for all of you. I will leave them at the desk. They are a citizen's guide to government. When I looked at the web page, they said that the most frequently asked question leading up to an election and on election day is where to vote. But this has all kinds of interesting phone numbers. It's how a bill becomes law, things about voting, absentee ballots, all kinds of things. So hopefully you'll enjoy them and get some use out of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great that we're getting kids to be registered. You know, that's nice to see, and you know, that's part of the job of moving into the real world. They should learn to vote and be part of that. So I'm glad that you guys are doing that. And you know, the debate is always something we do here every year with the help of the League of Women Voters. So we thank you for putting that on. Anyone else from the public like to address? Jen.
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Today, for the Shade Tree Commission, we attended a conference in Riverdale, and it was on defects of trees, and it was also, we had an entomologist from the state of New Jersey Department of Agriculture about the emerald ash borer coming, and also about the spotted lanternfly. It's all a progressive thing they're trying to figure out on how to solve these problems, like We had talked before, mostly with the ash trees, we're going to have to just remove them. The costs are too really exorbitant to treat them. Anywhere from, $450 per year over a 25-year period. The trees would have to be treated every year for the first 10 years, and then once every 5 years for a 25-year period. You're talking in thousands of dollars in treatment. So that's for the town. We're pretty much going to remove them. Also, we had a speaker from Rutgers spoke on deer and bear in conflict with residents. And I had texted the mayor, and I want to thank the mayor for attending that conference and paid attention and asked a lot of questions, and we've got some information. But like I say, it's an education that we're going to have to keep going with all the time. The mayor can talk a little bit more in his report about it. So it was pretty informative. So once again, I want to thank you for being there. Also, just Resolution 19-184, I had a question there.
184.
Connection with Morris Canal Greenway, pedestrian and bicycle trail, paving material.
All right, we'll pull that from separate action.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up, I did attend, and I thanked our Shade Tree Commission. There were 2 of them there. There was a good group of people there. I would say, 75 to 100 people, different towns. They had breakfast and lunch, and it was put on by Riverdale. I would like to try to get our DPW there next year if we can. The conversation wasn't geared to one way or another, but it was informational, which is what you're looking for. And the gentleman, especially about the deer, I was there to listen to the deer because I had said publicly I would try to work with that. He had a lot of suggestions, but he also offered to help our town here, just to come and do a little idea of what he thinks. We will discuss that and maybe, in the future, maybe think about doing something like that. But, like everything in general, it's about education more than anything. So whatever method we decide, or no method, one of his choices is no method, okay? And then there's euthanasia, and then there's medical sterilization, and there's many different things there that can happen. And even when I spoke to him, he was very informative and had a lot of great information. We spoke about fencing, for example, and he didn't understand from our side of it, when someone puts up an 8-foot fence that they call a deer fence, breaks the ordinances in town for having a fence. A fence can only be 6 feet high. And he didn't understand that there was distinctions between them. I said, there is no distinction in our town, at least, about fencing. There's a fence or no fence. There's not a deer fence or something else. So he started to see that it could get complicated when you try to figure these things out. So it was a good meeting, and hopefully we can move forward with some more ideas with that. Anyone else from the public would like to step up?
Bergie Wayne Cockather, 26 Albert Street, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. The play is coming fine. We thank you for all that you've done, and we're practicing, we're getting scenery together, we got costumes together, and it's really coming along fine. And Pat Guy, who is our new leader, my mother used to be the leader of Explorer Post 136, but she's since taken the plane and given it to somebody else, and thank God, she was getting awful tired. Well, anyway, Pat Guide is the daughter of Mayor Guide. Maybe you've heard of him? Yeah. Well, anyway, she's taken over control, and it's just wonderful.
And what's the date again?
Pat Guide.
No, what's the date of the play?
Date, I think it's...
November 12th, I think.
I'll call you.
All right, let me know.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to rest? Please step up.
Maria Kent, 17 Glen Court. I just want to invite the mayor and council to the upcoming Clean Community Program Annual River Cleanup. It's a town-wide cleanup. We invite all the residents, anyone interested in coming out to Hirschville Park. This time it starts at 11 o'clock on September 29th. That's a Sunday. We go to around 1 o'clock, and then we order pizzas and
So
stuff.
this Sunday?
This Sunday,
Right.
yeah.
Not Saturday.
No, not Saturday, Sunday. Sunday, yeah. And we have, again, I think it's the 15th annual this year.
Would you clarify where everyone meets?
Yes, oh, sure. We ask everyone to meet at Hirschfield Park. We sign everyone in, keep them all legal, so we account for everyone when they go out, and then we all know that they come back. So we ask people to meet at Hirschfield Park at 11 o'clock. They meet there, then they go out, and they can do any part of the town that they like, as long as we know where they're at. And we collect trash, bottles, cans, garbage, tires, wood, lumber, whatever, anywhere throughout the town. We give them back. I have bags. The DPW provided bags to me today, and gloves for safety reasons. And then we ask the volunteers to place them on a corner, and then the DPW will be notified Sunday night, Monday. All that nasty stuff goes away, properly placed. It's really a fun time. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of handouts. We have prizes for, who gets the dirtiest, who's the oldest, who's the youngest, most special oddball thing you find in the river. There are all kind of cute little things, and
I don't want to be any of those things. The oldest,
you're
the
all of them.
dirtiest.
You're all of this. No, we have a really good time, and Mayor Mike, you always come, and you're always a great sport about cleaning up the stuff and complaining about it. Yes, you did. But we do thank you. But anyway, so I just wanted to remind everyone, and then we've already had some donations. The ice cream station donated coupons for free ice cream cone, and I'll tell you what, that's a big deal anymore because it's getting expensive. So we're hopefully going to get some pizzas from local people too. So we really do have a good time. We will have the environmental club from the high school attend. Mr. Toronto's been terrific with that. So unless you have any questions, you of course call me, and it's on the. I want to thank Mrs. Strauss for putting it on the town website for us. Thank you very much. And this is sponsored by the Environmental Protection
So just
Committee.
announce the time and date and place again, please.
Yeah, it's Sunday, September 29th.
This Sunday.
This Sunday. And we'll meet at Hirschfield Park, and we'll be there at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Sharp.
Great.
Because you have to sign in. And I did notify the police, and and I believe the insurance people were already notified in case we have an incident. Knock on wood, never had an incident all these years, so we're not going to have any. Okay, if you have any questions, thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's always a good, there's always a good turnout.
Yeah.
Like Pompton normally does. There's people there to help clean up our town, which is what we're looking to do. So
20 or 30, I think we had 32 lists.
Good. Anyone else from the public would like to address? Please step up.
Ernie Garrett, Broad Street, Pompton Lakes. I know you were at the meeting at Tilcon with us when we had that meeting last time. Well, the neighbors of ours are concerned now again because they were talking about opening a cement plant, and they're already in the process of redoing it. Did you hear any more information?
Yeah, I asked them
on
about that. I just met with them about a week ago, and they said there's no plans at this time to do anything with the cement plant.
Because we went to them as a community, for Broad Street, and we asked them about holding off doing anything with that plant, and if they open it up, to make sure that they don't use Broad Street as the main entrance until they go off Union Ave. So
I've been promised by them numerous times, and I'm going to hold them to their word, that Broad Street would not be used for traffic any longer for anything. So if something was to open up on that plant, I'm going to say, look, you told us no traffic, take a different route. Everything they tell me is that Broad Street, when they finally move the plant, will be closed to truck traffic. There will be no trucks.
all right, well, because they were concerned, they came to me again, we had another meeting, because they don't want the plant to open up this cement factory again.
I agree.
They had years ago, because of all the more trucks that we're gonna get on their street. The dust is phenomenal. I had to end up going to the car wash to get the $20 a month thing that I have to pay for 2 cars every month, just to keep my cars clean. And I went to the quarry, but they won't touch anything or pay for anything, you know what I mean? So, I just wanted to know, because the neighbors came to me the other day, and we were talking about it again, because Henry at the car place also heard that they're gonna be reopening with that. So, that was our concern, so that's what I wanted to find out.
For me, as a representative of the town, I'm in the same situation as you. I want the truck traffic off of Ringwood Avenue and off of Broad Street. So, they promised us that will happen. And if they go against the word, I'm gonna have a problem with that, because the end of the result of it is your neighborhood, and you have the dust and all that problem. But we also have the issue with the trucks on Ringwood Avenue, and I think they're just horrible the way they drive there. It causes a lot of problems. I live up on that corner. They make that turn on to Ringwood Avenue without stopping sometimes, and, you
I know,
know.
they come whipping around and stop.
So I need to have those truck traffic go away. So they promised us that, so I'm gonna hold them to it.
Okay, I appreciate it. And, they also wanted to find out, two of my neighbors came to me yesterday and one again today. They wanted to know if the town had any kind of thing with, tax freeze for seniors.
We do not. I think it's
I heard
illegal.
some towns have that.
It's a state program only. The towns can't do something independent. You can do it through the state. There's a program through the state, which, I don't know
You
anything
can
about
come to the tax assessor's office and collect the information out of it. It's a state-run program, income qualified.
Oh, that's
So it's not guaranteed to have an income qualification.
Okay, well, I wanted to find out.
Meaning no income.
And, one more thing, I heard the Broad Street is supposed to be, macadammed again, redone.
You should be getting I'll be talking about it in my report, but today or tomorrow, you'll be getting reverse 911 calls and letters in the mail. This weekend, the reverse 911 calls will go out, and letters in the mail explaining what's done and how long it's going to be. They're looking about a week to do all the roads, which is about 40 roads, right? Correct?
No, we're doing 15.
15 now, 15 roads. Hopefully, within the week, they should be finished. That's if weather holds. Right now, the weather looks pretty good, actually. So hopefully, it'll be a week to finish it,
Are
start
they
to
gonna
finish.
reroute the trucks, or they're gonna have?
DuPont is, Tilcon has been notified, and they reached out to us. Again, I was with them in another meeting, and said they will be having one-way traffic on the road while they pave one side and supplying their own men to handle that, and then moving it over to the other side they pave and closing the other side. So they're going to do it half at a time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Council President Riker, Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor? Aye. Against? Approval of minutes, motion to approve the following minutes. Regular meeting minutes of September 11th, 2019.
So moved.
Councilman Devine,
Yes, second.
Councilman Day, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Bills and claims, motion to approve the following bills as listed below.
So moved.
Councilman Bay,
Second.
Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Petitions, we have none. Consent agenda, we're going to hold for
Number
discussion, 19184. So whenever you're ready.
Whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, and whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from the agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 19-180 through 19-188, and we're going to pull Resolution 19-184.
Perfect. We have a motion.
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Councilman Giaconetti, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, resolution 19184.
Okay, resolution for separate action, Resolution 19-184, authorizing approval of estimate number 6 in connection with the Morris Canal Greenway pedestrian and bicycle trail with paving materials and contracting LLC.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Devine.
Second.
Councilwoman, who was that? Council President Riker. Discussion.
Okay. This is the final payment on the Greenway project. It's $10,000 and change. It includes the final payment and retainage. There's a 2-year maintenance period that runs starting July for 2 years, which brings it into 2021. All the trees have been replanted, and then the data will go for over a year. And so at this point in time, we have a 2-year maintenance guarantee on any of the planting and materials.
Is there any funds being held back for those 2 years, or?
No, it's done. That's a maintenance bond, and then you use the retainage, that's how it works.
Okay, so, but it goes till 2021 though,
Yeah,
correct?
you maintenance period.
Or what happens if they just say, I'm not coming back?
That's why you have a bond.
Okay.
You take money to bond, it gets different.
Correct. Okay.
That's what it is on. But, just so you know, too, next Tuesday, I'm walking the state of New Jersey, doing a walkthrough, because the extra $24,000 for trails granted by some of the amenities, so they're going to be doing their inspection of the project.
Any questions on Resolution 19-184? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? You don't have to vote. You're fine. All right, we have no first readings, ordinance for second reading and final adoption, whenever you're ready.
Okay, ordinance for second reading and final adoption. These ordinances have been advertised and posted on the municipal bulletin board. Ordinance 19-22. Ordinance authorizing tax exemption and payment in lieu of taxes in connection with the redevelopment plan for Block 2800, Lot 11, and adopting and authorizing the execution of a financial agreement for payment in lieu of taxes with 9 Hamburg Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to state statute.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 19-22.
So moved.
Council President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Bay? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this ordinance? Please step up.
Hi, Peter Cesar, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. Just curious as to the length of the contract.
30 years.
30 years, okay. And what is the difference between, I guess, what the existing taxes on that property are versus what they would be?
We'd have to find it. We don't have those numbers in front of us, but
The finance agreement, however, is available for review in the clerk's office.
Okay. And is there something else? As with some other pilot agreements in other towns, they include a clause that should there be any extra expenditure for schools, that would actually be coming out of the contract agreement, as opposed to just automatically being funded from the municipality. Does this contract include any such clause?
it does not, because what you just said was the reason it doesn't, because the schools are made whole right from the beginning. So if they need something or need more, they're going to get it no matter what. There's
Well,
no...
the difference being that it comes from municipal funds as opposed to from the contractor's payments.
Yes, but it doesn't normally come from the contractor's payments. It comes from the town. The contractor's payment is a set schedule. They're going to work with them. They don't make an exception if they have more kids in school. The contractor's going to pay more money.
I believe that some other towns do have it.
One town tried to do it, and I don't know if it was legal or not.
There has to be a rational nexus between a contract, there has to be a rational nexus between a long-term tax exemption and the community benefits that come out of it. So for that reason, certain things get struck down. So just because a municipality tried to slip in some agreement on the off chance that a multifamily development with 1 to 2 bedrooms has school children and a direct payment associated with the education of that school children, doesn't mean it would stand up to court if it were challenged.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 19-22?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Devine, Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 19-22 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Bay?
Second.
Ooh, that's a close one. I'm going to Councilman Bennett. Roll call.
Any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion from us up here? So this is, I should just add, this is one of our smaller pilots that's moving forward. This is a small 9-unit development in a house that is in need of repair, and they're going to take it down. Seven. I'm sorry, 7. Okay, motion to
It's on
approve.
it's on the Riverdale, Pompton Lakes Riverdale board.
Yes, it's the last house in Pompton Lakes. Motion to approve ordinance 19, we did that. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Devine?
Yes.
Councilman Dagnetta?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
We almost got through the whole thing with not an issue, we're good. So, see, you're ready to go. Okay, under my report. I had a meeting on Wednesday with the high school. They're looking to place some learning disability children who are over 18 into positions They pretty much could do almost anything. They work in the school right now. They would do, some lawn maintenance outside the school. They've asked the town to see if we can find some positions for them, and I think it's a good fit for us, so, we might be using them in some other, areas. And at the end of that, they've also asked me just to make an announcement that if anybody has a business, and they're looking for some help, they could probably offer you some help. They come with their own teacher who oversees them, and watches them. They're pretty capable of doing almost everything by themselves. And of course, there's no salary with this, but what they're hoping is it's a learning experience for them and maybe turns into some salary for them in the long run. So I think it's a great program. We're going to try to help them as best we can here with the town. And I know some businesses in town, example, Home Field Advantage is taking advantage of it, no pun intended, right now, and is using somebody, and some other business as well. So I just wanted to announce that. I attended, I see our Shade Tree Commissioner left. They did have a nice meeting today, and it was about many things. The deer population is a problem in town. No one's going to deny that. But we also live in a country setting where we're around animals. So it's a tough call here, Are we going to get rid of every animal? Is deer where we start, and then people don't like a fox, we get rid of a fox. If people don't like a raccoon, we're going to get rid of raccoons. So it's a tough thing. Now, look, the deer are doing a lot of damage, and my big concern with deer, I've said it all the time, is auto accidents. But on a small community like ourselves of 3 miles, it's tough to control just a 3-mile square density town when you have every other town around us, including DuPont's property of 480 acres, where these deer can be. So at least the discussion has started. They talked about a lot of towns that are allowing some hunting in open space lands, but most of those towns are out west in New Jersey that have a lot of space to do that. There is one town, Upper Saddle River, is going to maybe try it this spring. They'll be the first town, probably in Bergen County, Passaic County, to do it, and we'll see how that goes. I still am under the belief that the county, at least the county, if not the state, should be looking at a comprehensive plan for everybody to address this, so we're not just at one little spot in the town doing this. We could start, I think someone brought it up at the last council meeting, we could start with the county first, maybe get some of the towns involved with the county to see if we could all get on the same page, and then maybe try to push it on to the state. Of course, the state will say it's too expensive, and we can't afford this, but, it is an issue, and we're trying to do the best we can with addressing that. I attended the rec meeting. We gave all our praises last meeting for the Pompton Day. They had great results. Just from the duck raffle, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Palminteri, I think they collected $4,500 in just duck raffle tickets. So all that money goes to help run our recreation programs. It doesn't go to pay anything. Everybody's a volunteer when it comes to Pompton Day, including the bands, including everything you see there. So all that money goes to help offset some of our costs in our recreation program. So they do a great job there, the recreation, the Murphy family, as I will call it, because she gets a lot of help, the same help for 20 years, comes out, really supports it. And I thank all the residents for supporting it, and I thank all the people that spend a lot of time and energy putting Pompton Day together, including our DPW, our police, our fire, our CERT. We forget about our CERT sometimes. They're out there directing the traffic, making sure things are moving forward. And again, they're all doing it for volunteer. They're not getting paid. They get no points for it. It's nothing. But they'll spend their day directing traffic. So, kudos to everybody that is involved with that, and it helps with that. I attended a zoning board meeting last night. I attended, like I said, a recycling meeting. We had a meeting with the library to discuss some changes we'd like to see at the library. The library is going to put together a list of ideas that they would like to see done at the library, and we're going to look for some funding or come up with, through either their budget or our budget, to try to see if we can help them out with that. We forget that we have a historical library that's 100 years old. It's a very impressive building. I know to the younger groups of people in town, maybe a library is an outdated thing, but, I feel the library is needed in our town, and it should stay, and it's an important part of our building. So we'd like to just build it and make it a better facility over there. Let's talk a little bit about recycling. We're having some issues right now, and we talked about this in the last couple of meetings with recycling. The supplier that we take our recycling to, all of a sudden in the last couple of weeks, has decided that our recycling has some non-recycling in it, and is not accepting it, or will accept it at a much higher pay rate. And we're starting to pay extra money now just to get rid of recycling. I don't know, we don't understand the reason yet, we don't know why it's going on, but we're gonna have to be, as a community, much more diligent in what we put into our recycling bins. And we're gonna start to put out a list very shortly. For example, children's furniture, that, the playhouses and the plastic seats, even though it's plastic, that's non-recyclable, so that can't be recycled. So if it gets thrown into a recycle bin, and then it gets dumped and brought down to the dump area, they then charge us a different fee to dump that. So plastic bags, for example, cannot be mixed in with our plastic, so they're getting very particular and very hard to deal with. It's just the beginning stages, but please, when you recycle, make sure, again, and I know we've changed our recycling numerous times about what goes in it, styrofoam was in, then it was out, light bulbs were in, then they were out. We're gonna get a new list of things, and we're gonna try to follow that best we can. We will be bringing on someone at the recycling center, and his job will be to check everything that comes in that people are dumping to make sure it is recyclable. So if we can kind of cut it off at the pass before it gets past that. We feel that the garbage men, when they pick up the recycling, have a good idea of what's in the cans, the small cans, but when people go to the recycling center, it's a very busy place on Saturday, and nobody can watch everybody that's going on there, so we're gonna actually hire someone for a little while to watch what's going on, and inform the residents, say, by the way, that doesn't go in there. For example, we had a metal screen door was thrown in with recycling. I guess whoever put that in there thought it was metal, it goes in with the metal cans, and it's recyclable. Well, obviously, it's not recyclable, and it has to be pulled out. So there'll be more to follow with that. This goes into the whole discussion about where recycling is going with the country in general right now. When China stopped taking most of the recycling, there was no backup plan. So it could reach a point, it could go either way. It could reach a point where it's cheaper to throw it in garbage than it is to recycling it, because what they charge you to dump it, or someone picks up a recycling throughout the country and makes some money off of it. We don't know which way that's going, but as responsibility for our tax dollars, whatever's the cheapest way to get rid of our garbage is the way we're going to have to do that. So there's more to follow on that. And that is my report.
Were you thinking about, too, putting extra dumpsters down there, too? To actually maybe separate it, like glass, plastic?
We did, but the problem with that is if we do it there, then I'd have to have it done at the home also.
Right, okay.
We want to keep consistent.
I know we're talking about that, too.
Right, because if I say you can only do this here, but you don't do this here, it would be confusing.
Right.
Right now, we commingle everything.
Yeah.
If it comes to that we have to separate out everything, then we would do it at the recycling center, but we'd also have to do it at the homes, too.
Correct,
So
all right.
it's a whole process that we're going to have to talk about a little bit. Council President Recker.
Since you ended on recycling, I'll pick up on my comments on recycling. If you remember last council meeting, I came with my bag of plastic bags just to begin to start highlighting the fact that plastic bags, unbeknownst to many of us, don't go in the plastic recycling. We do have these Trex boxes around town. We've been communicating back and forth since the last meeting with Dan, who is our new DPW supervisor. He is working on trying to get us a few more boxes and also trying to regularly empty them. That's one minor point in terms of this big picture, but all your plastic bags can no longer go into recycling. The other thing that a number of us went back and forth on these emails, and there's a point that the mayor touched upon that I really think needs to be highlighted. We have changed the rules. We, not as a community, but the recyclers have changed the rules, as we indicated last meeting, that China's no longer taking our recycling. So, not to throw anyone under the bus, but a former council person who was the one who was really a leader in helping us get recycling started, had a big chunk of styrofoam sitting in his recycle bin this morning. The reason I'm saying it is, if someone who is so dedicated to recycling is doing this, you have to expect that the entire community is unaware of the rules have changed. Councilman Bennon and I had a couple of emails back and forth. I really think it's fine to add somebody at recycling center. It's okay to say that our DPW can look in the bins of those people who don't recycle. but I think we need to have a full-court press in terms of an education campaign. And one of the anchors of our campaign, I think, really needs to be the kids, because the kids will drive this, and they'll get into it, and it will be fun, and it'll make them aware. But we really need to not just hire another guy at the DPW. I think we really need to do, and I know we use a website, and I know we use Facebook, but you're talking about a community, and I'm often the voice of the folks who say, my neighbors couldn't find their way to Facebook if their lives depended on it, that we need to do this in a much more concentrated way. In addition, when the mayor was talking about the person who will say, hey, listen, styrofoam can't go in it, would you take that back? That person also has to have a good piece of literature. They can explain the two things they got wrong this time, but I think, quite frankly, they need to have literature that people constantly get on a regular basis. And I really would love to enlist the PTA, the Scouts. They can be invaluable in getting the message out and making it a game in terms of making sure we get it right. So,
and I agree with you, we should have a list. The problem with the list right now, the list is constantly changing. They're constantly changing the list. So, we did such a good job at the last time putting all that information. Most of that stuff on that list now has been pulled off that list.
Correct.
And so now, we'll do another educational campaign on it, and it'll probably change again.
Well, let's do it cheaply, but let's do it to account for the fact that it's going to change. But just to go back to the simple thing of the plastic bags, I still get a newspaper delivered on my curb every day. You know, I read it online sometimes, but I like the old-fashioned paper. That old-fashioned paper comes in a plastic bag, and on a wet day it comes in 2 plastic bags. Those plastic bags, if they're added to those Trex boxes, what's been explained, and perhaps this is relatively new to our community, the more plastic bags we stick in those Trex boxes, the more free benches we get for our parks. So it's not just, so especially for the kids, you know, to know that we can place benches around the parks and whatever, it's something that I think the whole community has to get on board. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents on the recycling. Couple of announcements, and then I have another issue. I want to thank you for those booklets. I use them on a regular basis. I teach law, and some of the way they present how a bill becomes a law and some of the way our government is organized is done beautifully. I'm anxious to see this version because we have the new voting law in New Jersey, where if you voted by absentee in the last 3 years, you're automatically getting an absentee ballot. I'd be curious whether these are adequately covered, because that seems to be where most of the questions are these days. But I want to thank you for that. I know a few months ago, a grant opportunity was presented to me. I shared it with the council. Councilman DeLine ran with it and secured that grant through TAF Foundation along with the administrator. This is another grant opportunity that's come my way. So I think the best thing to do is I'll leave it with Mrs. Trost. She'll give it to the administrator, and then you will share it with those folks who you think are appropriate for it. So this is a potential another grant opportunity. There's a bunch of besides the river cleanup, there's quite a few events that are coming up in the next couple of days. Maybe people up here will talk more about them, but I would like people to sort of get their calendars out, in that Monday, October 7th is a busy day here in town. We have our annual Rotary Steaks and Chops, and then you also, right before that, have a fire prevention at the open house at the firehouse, and maybe Mr. Al Evangelista, who's in the audience, maybe he'll talk more about it. We also have a very popular, that Chamber of Commerce car show is Sunday, October 13th. I encourage you not only to go with your friends from Pompton, but it's a great opportunity to bring friends and from neighboring communities to show off our community. My next remarks have to go under the category of misinformation. We have known over the last few years that the realtors in the greater northern New Jersey area tend to have a tremendous amount of misinformation about DuPont, the contamination, the systems that are put in people's homes. The mayor and I often, it happens once a year, often go to a program that the realtors, the Passaic County Realtors are based in Wayne. They put together a lovely lunchtime program where the mayor, some council presidents, some borough administrators go and meet the leaders from the other communities, and we share all sorts of ideas. And one of the things that came out of this meeting, because it was sponsored by the realtors, is that the last time that DuPont did a demonstration regarding the equipment, regarding the contamination, was almost 4 years ago. And what they did is they reached out to us and said, I think it's time to do another program. So with the help of the EPA, there is going to be a program for all Passaic County Realtors who want to participate in, and that's going to be tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it, because if you speak to some of the realtors who work a lot in Pompton Lakes, they will constantly anecdotally share stories with you about what they've heard other realtors say about what's going on in our community. So I'm hoping that will be very positive. My next comment on misinformation deals with redevelopment. I got a call the other day that, quite frankly, I found somewhat disconcerting. There's a lot of excitement going on with the Salvation Army project, which is referred to as Lakeside Commons. It's been a long time in coming. They're moving along at a very good clip. People are asking, how do you get on the list? How much are the units? And there's all sorts of buzz. Developers are seeing that Pompton is open for business. There's potential projects. There's people that are coming and looking. So there's all sorts of good things that are coming from it. However, I got a frantic call from a constituent and said, I hear there's only 26 spaces at Lakeside Commons. Well, that's not accurate. They're more than double that amount in Lakeside Commons. And I tried to explain to her. And before I did it, I reached back out to Michael Fabrizio, who's the executive director, to make sure I had the exact number of spaces, which ones were on property, which were on Lakeside Avenue, which ones would be dedicated in the pond hole. And then I found out the source of the misinformation, and that's the thing that I think I found the most disconcerting. The source of the misinformation were the people in the post office. Well, we know they don't work for us. We know that they're not borough employees, but there they are, appearing to have knowledge. The building's right next door to them, and they are disseminating misinformation. I can only imagine what other misinformation is being spread out there. So one of the things I'm bringing to the council is, I think we need to, and maybe this is a Chamber of Commerce thing, or maybe this is a bid thing, but I think even though we are not the rental agent for the units, I think we need to put together a real simple summary of what projects have been improved, a paragraph on what a pilot is, a little bit about Lakeside Commons and whatever parking issues, and I know we have websites and things, but I think we might want to share them with the property owners and the business owners, because they will be our voices. Because who do people talk to in the community? They go into a store and say, hey, I can't believe it, I heard XYZ. Well, some of the business owners are very knowledgeable. They participate in the bid, they've been part of the process, but most of them are not. And I feel that they can help deal with some of this information that's out there. So I'm throwing that out to the council.
Well, I think that's something the bid should do.
You think the bid should do it?
Because they're responsible for the store owners, and, they speak to them, and they sit on that
Well, the bid is responsible for the property
The
owners.
property, but the property owners would then pass that on to the renters, that they have. I think that would be the group to do that, and we can easily, redevelopment agency can easily put together a facts page for them to hand out, I think.
I also think it probably should include the teachers, because when someone, for instance, I moved here from Wayne, a lot of the teachers in Pompton Lakes live in Wayne. When they want to know what's going on, then they reach out to me. Well, people in Wayne want to know what's going on in Pompton Lakes, who do they reach out to? They reach out to the teachers from Pompton Lakes. I think it should not be limited to just the property
But
owners.
it's not that easy, because then you gotta put in residents who don't know it, and...
But that's...
There's always gonna be misinformation.
There's always, but I think it behooves us, at this point, to understand that people are excited, and there's a lot of misinformation out
And I
there.
agree, we should put something.
And I don't know what you folks have experienced, if you're getting this on a regular basis, but don't want anything to unnecessarily, put our redevelopment in a negative light unnecessarily, and I really felt I needed to share that.
I would suggest that it's not only the bid, it's the Chamber of Commerce. Rotary has a lot of business people that are involved. That's your avenues to get your information out.
Okay, so I think what probably it sounds like, reach out to Michael Fabrizio initially, explain some of the problems. I don't know if the folks on this end of the table are experiencing this. Michael is patently aware that people are very frustrated in getting the rental information. That he's aware of, and he dealt with that at this last week's bid meeting. But I don't think he's aware of other concerns that people have. So I think let's do it that way. Two other quick things. I won't go into the detail of the bid meeting. I'll let Councilman Day do that. But lighting seems to be an issue here, and I know you mentioned it in your report, I think, last meeting. What concerned me is a note that I think all of us got, and I know that we're experiencing redevelopment, but as redevelopment is coming, there are certain things I don't think we can put on the back burner. And there was a note that we got to let us know that, especially around where the Jazzercise is, which is the Babcock area, that the lighting is so poor, the clocks are going to be turned back in just a few weeks, and Jazzercise is exclusively women. And I think we
Jersey
really...
Central's been notified, it's their
Okay.
responsibility, they're their lights.
Okay.
Our police department did a survey, got the poll numbers, and sent it to Jersey Central and told them which lights are out. So we have no say on those.
What can we do to push that? Because I feel that once we've been put on notice, it's really...
Well, we can make our calls, but it's
Right.
Jersey Central has to do it.
I understand that, but to let them know that is a particularly dangerous series of lights that are out.
We could follow up with them.
Let them know in whatever influence you have, because that really does concern me. And the last thing is, we're going into the Jewish high holidays. Rosh Hashanah starts on Sunday evening, and then it's the 10 days of repentance, ending with Yom Kippur. We as a council will not be meeting until after the holidays, so it's the holiday where you use honey and apple. You often dip apples and honey to signify a sweet new year, and the greeting is Lashana Tova, which is just a good new year, happy new year. So anyone celebrating, I wish you a very, very good and happy and healthy new year. And the other greeting is, and may you have an easy fast. So, thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. One of the things I forgot to mention in my report, I'll be meeting with Congresswoman Cheryl next Friday. She invited me to be on a panel with the mayor of Wayne and a couple other mayors involving the Army Corps. The colonel from the Army Corps will be coming down to discuss the working of the ever-popular gates at the dam. We've had the colonel here numerous times over the last 30 years to discuss our dam. So she has taken it upon herself as a new congresswoman to see what she can do about the situation and how it works. So I will be taking part in that conversation next Friday. Councilman Bay.
Thank you. I attended the Pompton Lakes bid meeting on September 19th. The bid is looking for prices on adjusting the street lights in the downtown. The bid reports that the replacement and trimming of trees in the business district has been completed. Rob Walker reports the Unlock the Loot contest was a great success. The bid also authorized the purchase of pumpkins, mums, and corn stalks for fall decorations from Manello's at a cost of $3,100, and it is purchasing 34 banners at a cost of $1,050. I attended the Pompton Lakes Planning Board meeting on September 17th. The board approved the resolution designating the property occupied by Passaic County DPW as property in need of redevelopment. The county has future plans to redevelop the property for veteran and senior housing. The board also has passed a resolution designating the block from Lenox Avenue to Babcock Place as a property in need of redevelopment. Both declarations were made after an investigation by Mazer Consulting PA, who were retained to do the investigation. And that's
Wow, quick and quick. Everyone should follow your lead. Councilman Dewan.
Thank you, Mayor. My voice is killing me, so I'm going to
So you
spare
have a nice
everybody
short
from
report,
talking
too?
as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, so first thing first is next month, we're going to be introducing an ordinance that regulates vape shops and electronic smoking and vapor devices. This does not necessarily ban the devices, it simply regulates the kinds of businesses and how they operate when it comes to age check and license fees and things like that. So we'll be introducing that ordinance next month.
And
I have one point to make on that. When I drafted that ordinance, I made the renewal fee, well, the fee for initial licensing is $500, and the ordinance, which mirrors the lane, I made the renewal fee $400 or $100 less, but your health department would like to see it be the same, so it's really up to you. You tell me to change it to 500, it's just a stroke of the keyboard, but you want it to be $400 or $500 to renew the license.
500.
What was your rationale for going less?
Because a little less has to go in doing something for a renewal than for an initial licensing. That was the way I was looking at it, but it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. You tell me what number you want here, and I'll put it in there.
I'd like to see 500 myself.
500 it is.
And just to follow up on that, there was some discussion with the schools about the vaping, because, of course, they have the same issues that outside the school does, and they are addressing it as best they can in the schools also, and who knows where the state will be going with vaping, and the federal government will be going with vaping. So, this is all a changing field, but I think Councilman DeWine is talking about, and our health department brought to us, is to make some changes at the level we can right now, and we'll move forward from there. So, go ahead.
Other things going on, let me see. There's an ongoing pedestrian safety survey. We're working with Transoptions to understand pedestrian and driver behaviors as it relates to pedestrian crossings, driving distracted, walking distracted, those kind of things. The survey is going on until this coming Monday, so if you haven't taken the survey yet, I invite you to do so. You can find the survey on the borough's Facebook page or on our website, a link to that survey.
What is it called on the link?
It's, if you go to the Pompton Lakes website, it says Pompton Lakes Street Smart Pedestrian Survey. So look for that, take the survey. You could possibly win a $100 Amazon.com gift card. It'll be, in October, we're going to be doing a pedestrian education campaign, and this is to sort of do a pre-screen about what people know about pedestrian rights and responsibilities and driver rights and responsibilities, and what how those attitudes may or may not have changed after the education campaign. The next thing is we had the Open Space Committee a couple weeks ago. The main thing that comes out of it is that there's been a Lakeside Avenue property subcommittee going on. Jennifer, Councilwoman Polidori has been leading that. They've put together an outline of the improvements that they would like to see made at the Lakeside Avenue project. We talked about that at the committee meeting, and then the committee actually recommended to the council to engage our engineer to develop a concept plan and cost estimate for those improvements that we would then use to seek Passaic County open space grant. So sort of like what we've been doing in the past, just taking all that information and putting it together into a concept plan, because that's what's required for Lakeside Avenue. So I'll send those details out to everyone, but the idea is to move that particular project forward. And then the last thing is I just wanted to point out to everyone and acknowledge our Pompton Lakes Police Department. A couple nights ago, I guess they were called to Lakeside Middles because somebody had complained about some youth doing some things, but they found out it was just a bunch of kids playing basketball, as kids are going to do. Responding properly are 3 of our officers. Let me get these right. Sergeant Rufo, Patrolman Bartlett, and Patrolman LaGreco played basketball with these kids. So, you know, and they've been on the news. They're going to be on Channel 12 tonight again. You know, when people ask me, what do you love about living in Pompton Lakes and representing Pompton Lakes, these are the kind of things. And I think we have probably one of the most, if not the most community-focused police department that I know of. I've seen other police departments. I work in a lot of communities, and by far this one is probably the most engaging to everyone and our residents. So again, I just wanted to point it out to everyone that they should definitely check out Pompton Lakes Police Facebook page, the news, Channel 12 tonight, I believe, and just acknowledge our great police force.
It's also been on Channel 7.
Yeah, it was on Channel 7 last night, 11 o'clock. They did a nice little story on it. And, you know, a small little town, I always say this, whenever we make the news, it is impressive, you know, compared to all the other towns around us. So, you know, and there's a good reason so. As Councilman Devine said, I believe one of the reasons we have such a good police force is the majority of them somehow were connected to Pompton Lakes at some point. Either they grew up here or they moved back into town, and they care about the community they live in. So it's not just a job for them, it's a place they live in. And I agree with you. I think we have one of the better police departments around. Who's next on my report here? Councilman Giacometto.
Thank you, Mayor. And also, too, in relation to that, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days before that, because I know my son was down there on the field playing soccer. And I think it was Sergeant Kufati, I forget the other officer, who were playing soccer. So, my son was saying, Sergeant Kufati has some pretty good moves, considering, you know, so I was surprised. He really said, he said, yeah. So,
I think he's an old man.
And I know it was on Facebook.
The one who has a good foot was Patrolman Foot.
That's it, the patrolman foot, that was the other one, right, exactly, yeah. So that's all surprised. Kufati, I thought he had 2 left feet, but anyway, you know, he gave him kudos, but, yeah, so he was down with a bunch of his friends.
Yes, he was, that was
you know,
on
from the
there,
high school, and, they were just practicing, I guess they wanted to practice a practice camp, and they did that. That was also on, Facebook, I see, so kudos to them too. So, and thank Eric for bringing that up. It's always wonderful news, since being, myself and Bill Begg being an alumni, and, you know, I know myself, I would always do that, you know, get out of the car, you know, several chiefs we had, even Bill Begg used to say, you know, when you was in the car, get out, you know, do this and that, you know, and greet the people, that's how you know, which was true, and that was the key, it was community policing. That was like the invention then, you know, what's community policeman? Get out and say hi, you know, introduce yourself, do the different things, so, that's always wonderful.
Especially to the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, big difference. Because it's funny, all these kids that are cops now was when I did it.
Right.
So I always remember that, oh, that's exactly that, you do all these different things. Exactly. But, real quick, I just wanted to also with that, in relation to, where I work at the, Wanacue Reservoir, we had a new phone system put in, and we had to make, several 911 calls from different phones, because the phone system, we're pretty complex up there, we have a couple different campuses. And, I met with, Steph Philippi and, the dispatcher, and for an hour or so, we went over, actually did a lot of 911 calls. So she was training, I guess, another dispatcher, so doing all that, and she would send me the pictures, what it read on the screen, because a lot of times it came in on the screen, the wrong address, the wrong, where it was coming in. So they would actually have to go in with the text put the right number in where it's supposed to correlate, so this way, if we do have a 911 and we respond to somewhere different, if Wanacue responds up by us, they respond to their own building. So, it took a little back and forth, but I want to thank her and the police department for working with us, because the 911 calls do come here from Wanacue, and they dispatch them, so they did a wonderful job, and I appreciate her, and I just wanted to publicly thank her and the police department for helping us out. So kudos to them. And then, also wanted to just quickly thank the mayor too with the recycling. I did talk to Dan and, and spearheading that and try to get that going. Like the councilwoman said, hopefully we'll try to get some, feedback out there and education and, we'll get it going. And hopefully we'll see how things maybe turn somebody and maybe take that ball and running because I think what you said, Mayor, is going to be happening. It's going to come to a point where it's going to be more cost effective just to throw it out.
It might be.
I mean, it's just, coming to that point. Yeah, unfortunately, right, exactly, so. But that's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
All right, so you guys reminded me of, when you spoke about the police, we did have some issues with solicitors in town. We do have a do not solicit log or list in town. You can get on it by either going to our webpage and signing up directly on the page, or you can come to town hall, we can sign you up. Once you're on that list, a solicitor cannot go to your house. And what happened was, we had a couple solicitors who were licensed and did what they were supposed to do, did not pick up some non-solicit list, and they were going to people's homes. And I saw it, I happened to see it on Facebook, and I responded, if someone comes to your house and you're on the non-solicit list, don't feel like you're bothering the police department. You should call them and let them know that that's going on. Because if they're not following the rules that were set in place, and they understand the rules, they sign a paper that understands the rules, fines can be put in place against them. How these just so everybody understands how these soliciting groups work, they're out of North Dakota and Wisconsin, and they just send 200 kids down to Jersey to do whatever they got to do. They don't know the community, they don't know the people. I don't really appreciate the fact that they're knocking on doors at 8:30, 8:45, but federal law protects them to able to do that. They happened to come to my house when this was all going on, and I asked them for all the identification, and they did have it, and then I said, I'm on the no solicit list. They said, we have no solicit list. And I said, well, we do have one here in town, and you're not following it. And I called the police department to report them, and the police did go and speak to them and made them get it. So don't feel that you're afraid to call the police on something simple like that. That's how we keep watch of our neighborhoods. I'd rather not see solicitors in town if possible. We can't do that. It's illegal, especially for the senior population. They don't want someone knocking on their door at 8:45 at night, in the middle of the night. But unfortunately, they're protected, and they're allowed to do that. So let's just keep informed, and if it happens, please report it, and get on the no solicit list if you'd like to. If you don't want to, if you have a sign in your window or door that says no solicitors welcome here, or you're on the list, they are not allowed to go to your home. Councilwoman Talbori.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a relatively quiet 2 weeks since we last met. The schools did have their back-to-school night, so it was very nice to be able to go back to Lakeside. I attended school there, my daughter attended school there, now I got to meet my son's teachers. There are actually still some teachers there that I had when I was in Lakeside, so that made it very fun. The Elks have the annual soccer shoot coming up on October 26th. That's going to be at Joe Grill Field this year. It's open to all children. You do not have to play soccer. Come down. It's a grid in the goal, and it's a kicking contest, so it's open to everyone. It's a free event. The winners of our town move on to districts. I had my MUA meeting, business as usual. We did just complete our successful fall hydrant flushing this past Monday. The rec committee has some events coming up. There on the front table is the new Get Fit flyer. The program just started again. Karen reported that on the first night they had 36 participants. It's 10 weeks of a variety of different workout classes, and you can either pay a drop-in fee or for half of it or for the whole thing. I encourage you to check.
Just tell where it is, where that is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's at Lincoln School.
This one is at Lincoln School. That's right.
So it's local into here at Lincoln School. You can pay when you show up, or you can pay for the whole season. It is a very popular group here.
And it's a different program every week, so you get to try a variety of different types of things. They also have yoga back in session. That's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Men's basketball has started again. And the walking club has also started to meet at Lakeside School on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can start walking in the hallways from about 6:30, 7 o'clock. The weekend of the 19th is going to be a busy weekend. Pompton Reformed Church has their fall festival during the day on the 19th, and then on the 20th, we have our Girl Scout Fall Festival at Hirschfield Park and the Halloween Hunt that night, which is for children of Pompton Lakes. So that's always a really fun weekend. All three of those events are great family activities. Hope to see everyone at all of them. And lastly, I have Coffee with the Council has been moved. So for the October 7th and November 4th meeting, we are actually welcoming a new business into town. The owners of the Artistic Academy have moved their storefront up Wanacue Ave, expanded the location, and they have now opened a coffee shop. So they will have all different types of coffee and pastries. So we will be joining them on October 7th for our next meeting from 5:30 to 6:30. We encourage you all to come out, welcome the new business owners, meet some of your council members, and check out what the new business is like.
You have the November date?
November 4th. So the next two are October 7th and November 4th, and then I don't think we do it in December. So, and that is my report.
So just to follow up on what you said with the walking club, for anybody who's interested in walking in the off-season, like in December, November, January, we do open up Lakeside School. There's no time, there's a set time where it starts and ends, but you're allowed to walk the hallways as much as you want, do circles or whatever. It's not a meeting group. It's not like you have to meet at a certain time. You can just show up there. The hallways are open for Pompton Lakes residents to use to exercise. The only thing you cannot do is run steps. Not that I would be doing that, but there are some residents that would like to run steps to lose weight. You're not allowed to run in the schools there. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you. So, as many of you may or may not know, I missed the last council meeting. I don't miss council meetings, I make a point. But last council meeting, I took part in what's called the 9/11 Promise Run as part of Team UPS. I was a driver, and our team ran, actually many teams ran from the Pentagon Memorial starting on Monday morning at like 4 a.m., September 9th, and we finished at Ground Zero on September 11th at about 7 p.m. So that's 240 miles over 3 days. It's a fundraiser for the children of first responders and military. This year they're getting scholarships. During those 3 days, we spent 2 nights at the firehouses. The first one, we started at the Pentagon, and we finished the first day about 90 miles later at the Elkton Fire Department in Elkton, where they fed us and gave us cots to sleep on. And the second night, we ran from Elkton to Trenton. So members of my team, we had about 10 people who were runners, ran between 8 and 10 miles per day. We had someone on another team ran 26 miles twice, which was amazing over 3 days. She ran about over 80 miles, so Danny, that was amazing. I ran about 10 miles over the 3 days on a plan of 0 miles. I was supposed to just be a driver, but I had the opportunity to hop out and run a couple miles, first to the Elkton, the firehouse in Elkton, which was kind of cool, and then to the firehouse in Trenton. So it was exhilarating and exhausting at the same time. You're exhausted from zero sleep basically, but it's cool to see people as you're running up the highway, people honking at you. You're running through the small towns. I ran in New Brunswick into Highland Park.
Highland Park is next.
So there were people at the post office clapping us, cheering us on, and there were stops throughout Jersey. One thing that stood out was while we're in Princeton, we had a full escort starting when we left Trenton all the way through to Newark. Full police escort, which backed up traffic for miles. I have a screenshot of Waze, how backed up it was. And I'm like, there's school buses behind us. But I'm like, wait a second, it's a good talking point as to why they're going to be late for school, because they were stuck behind runners that are helping us remember and teaching the kids that did not live through it. So we figured out that it was the 18th anniversary, so basically everybody in college on down was not alive at that time. So it's our job as the folks that have lived through it, know what it was like before and what it is now, to share that with our children. Next, Historic Commission. We continue to plan for the 125th anniversary celebration. So is this where I make the motion? I'd like to make a motion to set the date for the 125th Borough Anniversary celebration for Saturday, July 25th, 2020.
All right, so we have a motion on the table. That would be withstanding any issues that we have for anything else. with the fire, police, all that will be checked. But right now, does anybody have an issue with that date from here, from the council? No. Okay, so, do we have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Council President Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, so that made the set now.
Thank you. Next, Mayor, Councilwoman Polidori and I participated in the PLRYO Cornhole Tournament. That was a lot of fun. A lot of parents were out there. And people that didn't have kids ran into some old friends and whatnot. Great fundraiser. They're looking to do it again at some point. It was a long night, but it was still a lot of fun.
A lot of cornhole.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. My shoulders a little bit sore. And lastly, right before the council meeting, if you see the sign right below, it should be over about here. I mentioned before we received another grant from City Green for 3,000 daffodil bulbs this time. Last year was 1,000. That was a lot to plant. Councilman DeLine out there with this pickaxe. This time it's in more public areas, so along Hammer Turnpike, the public schools, the firehouse, and the various memorials throughout town. More details to follow. Tentatively scheduled for Saturday, November 2nd. You can check the Open Space Committee Facebook page, my Facebook page. It'll be out there once we confirm delivery and whatnot. So that is my report.
And thank you for taking part in the run. It sounded, very inspiring and something you probably won't forget. I'm sure our administrator is going to talk about it, but I should mention that we will be starting to pave all the roads that we planned on paving this fall, next week. The roads that are in question or the roads that will be paved, you will be getting a reverse 911 call if you're in the affected areas this weekend, and a letter will be going out probably went out today, also getting a letter. If it's telling you to move your cars, you got to move your cars, because if they start paving the road and your car's in the driveway, your car's staying in the driveway until they finish paving the road. So please follow the information on there. If there's any questions or any concerns, give a call to the town or the police department, and they can answer those questions. Professional reports. No report. Administrator's report. I'm sure you're going to talk about this.
You already talked about it.
But talk about it more.
You already talked about that. How much more I can add to that?
I don't know. Name some roads.
God, off the top of my head, I can't remember all. There's about 15 of them. Two major roads are Montclair and Broad Street. And we'll do a whole bunch of smaller roads in the south end of town. Next year, we'll do a bunch of roads in the north end of town based upon our road survey that Ferraro has done. So we'll try to go from worst to best. Over time, we'll eventually hit all the roads in time. The only real report I have tonight, really, my report is light, is really that I've had the 2020 budget. Hard to believe. We just always got the 2020 budget requests are out. All department heads have their requests in their mailboxes, so hopefully I check the mail because time is already ticking, but it begins again. That's my report.
That's your whole report. Okay. I was just reminded by our attorney that we did talk about the no soliciting. Obviously, when the census comes through, which will be this couple months, they don't have to follow the rules. They can go to everyone's house and solicit, and I would hope you would answer the door and give them the information if you can. Going back to the paving, just so everybody understands where we are, the town in history has never really put aside money to pave internal roads on a regular basis. We would fix roads as they needed repair. Some years would go by that we didn't fix any, other years we'd do more. This year, we started a program where our engineers went out and rated all the roads in town from worst to best. And every year, we're going to add a couple roads that we're going to work on, so we try to get through the whole system of roads. This way, we're at least on a schedule of roads, and we know where the last time a road was done. Don't forget, though, we do have a lot of county roads in town, and the county is responsible for paving those roads. So some of the bigger problem roads like Colfax, Lakeside, Dawes Highway, those are all county roads. So it's up to the county to pave them, and we do work in conjunction with the county to try to see if we can tell them, hey, look, this road needs some repair. A good example of that would be Colfax Avenue. We will be paving half of Colfax Avenue next year. The county will be doing the other half, which they own. Is it this year or next year? This year. So half of it will get done this year, half of it will get done next year. There's a lot of county roads. There is. Okay. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments? Councilwoman Polidori, Councilman DeLine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening. Michael Keel, 441 Rampo Avenue, Pompton Lakes. I caught what Council President Riker was talking about, the lack of information and need for it. I agree 1,000%. I have a question about the parking on Lakeside Commons. Is that all on their lot, or is that the 52-plus parking
It's
spaces?
52 on-site,
On-site?
and then there's another 12 that they purchased and own in the pond hole, and then there's some road parking, eight
I think
spots.
it's 8 on Lake, I don't have my sheet in front of me, but I think it's 8 on Lakeside.
And it's 59 units?
53 units, I think.
53 units? Because it-
52 or 53?
everybody was saying 59?
No,
No,
52.
but that's my point.
Okay. And the other thing is, that you mentioned was about the DuPont property information, updating it, and realtors having the wrong information. I'm a 35-year appraiser. I was a realtor, I still have that license. I'm also a certified tax assessor, but I'm a citizen. I agree with that, too. I have a question. You mentioned there's a meeting tomorrow that the realtors are sponsoring. Is that only open to realtors? Is it open to the
Yes.
public?
It's open to
It's only open
realtors.
to the realtors on Valley Road?
Realtors are doing it for their members.
I'm a member of the MLS, and I have my license. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they
I'll call and see if I can get it.
Yes, if you are an active paying member, you probably can.
I'm not a
Passaic County,
realtor member as a salesperson, I'm a
If you're
referral member.
in their system, then you would be allowed to.
I am in the system.
It's at that building in Wayne. Their
Yes, across the street from King's,
headquarters.
where
Yes,
King's was, I know it's
exactly.
still King's.
Verdun Alley.
Yeah, out back of the There's another thing that's an extreme lack of information about. I have a fire extinguisher myself, a couple of them, that just by time lose their charge. And I noticed that, and I wanted to get them recharged. I called the authorities, the town, I called the Home Depot, I called everybody to keep passing the buck. No one can tell me where to recharge my fire extinguisher. I find that very, very important, and I find it something that maybe, I don't know if the mayor and council could do anything about trying to get information out on that.
Can you offer any advice to us?
Yes, most of them under a certain pound, size-wise, it costs you more to refill them than it does to replace them.
That's it.
So we just tell people to discard it in the garbage.
I couldn't even get that answer from
It's
anybody.
discarded in the garbage.
Yeah.
When the Passaic County has their hazardous material waste day, they just had one a couple weeks ago, they will take used fire extinguishers or discharged fire extinguishers at those sites. So that's what we advise the public to do. We can't accept them in the firehouse, we have no way of getting.
At one time, years ago, they did.
So if it's the small ones, then we just tell people to discard them. And that's the type you would have in your home, maybe 5-pound, 10-pound pots.
Well, it's amazing that no one gave me the information that you're...
Well, now you got the information right from the horse's mouth. It's perfect.
Should ask you first anyway. But I did call and Deborah couldn't get you, as a matter of fact. You were busy. The other thing I just want to bring up briefly is the senior freeze. There's misinformation about that a gentleman asked about the senior freeze state program. The income level is far from zero. Far from you have to make nothing. I heard that as a comment. It's $89.13 combined, husband and wife. There's a lot of requirements. You got to be 65, or you have to be disabled on an SSI. There's other requirements for residency, how long you owned it, there's a base year. I encourage everyone to look online and to get all the information that you can on that, because our property taxes are something that
I
is not
agree.
low. You know,
Any dollar you can save is...
it's a
is dollar saved.
reimbursement, it's a form of a rebate, and the state gives back the money. So, it is a little complicated, it seems intimidating, but don't be intimidated, that's all I can say. I thank you.
Thank you for the information, and I agree with you. If we can save our seniors some money, I mean, it's hard for our seniors to stay up in North Jersey in general, so anything they can save is good. Anyone else from the public would like to address? Please step up.
Hi, I'm Gita Curtis, 111 Ramapo Avenue. Just as a little sidebar, Councilman Riker, the model of that apartment complex shows a way lower number of spaces, so that might be a source.
When you say model, what model?
You talk about the rendering?
Yes.
Don't go off the
Yeah,
rendering.
you don't go off
Renderings,
renderings.
yeah.
Yeah. Renderings are just a
That's
drawing
an official
of the
site
building.
plan.
Yeah, it's not an official document.
Who would know? I would know. You know, so maybe that's a source of misinformation.
Good, it's good.
So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to ask you all who's talked to the EPA or NJDEP in the past 2 weeks
We did.
about regarding the realtor.
Oh,
regarding
sorry.
that, or?
No, in general, I come every Thursday.
Yeah, we spoke to them on Thursday. I mean, you were there on
Okay.
Thursday, I was there on Thursday.
So if you're asking about the realtors...
No,
I'll
I
let you
just
know.
wanted to know if it was about that.
No, I just think of it in general,
Yeah.
about any update.
Okay, and that's good. So, I think you should all talk to them,
I agree.
because DuPont is, their property is a quarter of our town. It's 23.45% of the acreage of our town. We're gonna clean it once, and that's it. They're not cleaning it again, so you should have a 30-year master plan for that property. It's not getting cleaned again. So and in this dynamic, in this time period, the residents had no voice with the agencies. So
Well, wait, what do you mean, no voice? What do you mean by that?
we have no voice. It's not a public comment period.
Well,
We
there will be,
don't know-
there will be a public comment.
There will, in January and February.
Yes,
So
right now there is
until
not.
then,
Yes, correct.
you're a voice,
Right.
so that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the whole purpose of their being here. I mean, this is a very unusual situation that we have here in Pompton, that instead of them coming on a very rare occurrence, they're here, EPA is here every Thursday, and now, for the moment, we have DEP here once a month. So the intent is not for them to necessarily just be talking to the mayor and myself, because we can access them. The intent is to have the people from the community who have any questions, concerns, comments, to be able to say them in a very safe environment.
Okay, but
So
it's not my experience.
So get your friends to go over and talk to them.
Really not
That's
my
really what they
experience,
want.
So, we have the polluter, and we can make them clean the site.
So let's talk about that a little bit, that statement. We can't make them do anything. The EPA and the DEP, through science and their methods, will decide the cleanup of that. We, as a council, cannot make them do anything. So we have to follow the experts, which would be the EPA and DEP. I know you don't agree with that.
I think you're reneging on your
That's not
responsibility to
true.
pressure them.
You can pressure them all they want. They go by science. We could yell at them every day about this is what we want. They're going to come back and say, this is the science. And they did this just by they had to clean in the lake. Many residents screamed they wanted different things cleaned in the lake. They came back and said, this is the science that shows what needs to be cleaned in the lake.
Just the water.
Whatever their reasoning is. But I'm not going to say what you're saying is not true, and I agree with what Council President Riker said. I think if more residents came and spoke with him, and they heard it from different people, I do go every week, but I think outside residents who should come in and just talk quietly and say, this is what I feel, they might pay some attention. So, it's the same five people.
I think so, yeah, I know.
I know.
But, yeah, I think there's a deep distrust of the agency.
I understand.
Because there was people felt like they knew some information that wasn't shared with the residents for many years, and they continued to live in the plume without any knowledge, and the EPA knew, and the town may or may not have
But no
known.
one should be afraid to speak up their mind or how they feel about anything.
But I wish you guys would speak for us and be active and concerned and...
But you don't know, what we're speaking when we speak to them.
Well, it's 2 weeks and you guys stopped in or, you know what I mean? It's really important.
I usually will speak to both of them on the phone and then also come and stop. And if a resident brings a concern to me, no matter what the concern is, I will follow up with that concern to the EPA. I might feel one way or another, but I'm going to bring the concern to the EPA to get an answer from them. When we met with the Attorney General and the DEP Commissioner, I had a list of questions that residents asked me to ask, and the Council President was there. I did ask those questions. Some of them I knew the answer to, but I want them to answer it. If my residents want to know the question, then they deserve an answer.
Okay, so I have one that maybe you can bring to them because...
You should bring it yourself, but I will also.
I do, but there's a difference with how they speak to elected officials and how they speak to members of the
I would
public.
tell you this, that there's probably no one here that sits on the dais that hasn't spoken to them numerous times over the years.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So, we constantly feed information to them or request information from them.
Yeah, but I would expect it to be a continual thing. You know,
If we
during
do.
this process, I would think so, because this is the one-shot deal. And the reason I said a 30-year plan, this is back to, if you could speak to them about this, from what I understand, see, we can't see the plan.
Nope, we haven't seen it. Nobody can see it.
I know, it gets rolled out to the residents, they have
So,
public comment,
can I
and they
interrupt
do
you
a
one
couple of
second?
things to
Right, so right
humor
now-
us, but the plan is being formed now.
Right now,
so
there's
that's what
discussion
counts.
internally between Comores, what they want to do, and what the EPA wants them to do. That discussion is between the two agencies. We have no part of that discussion, we're not invited to that discussion. The EPA is going to go by their science and say, this is what we want. Comores might say, this is what we want by our science. EPA is going to say, we don't want your science, this is our science. But that's internal conversation that we can't be part of. But when they roll out the plan, then that's when we find out and the residents find out. They do have a comment period, which you're familiar with, where I, again, ask every resident, and remind you, it did work with the pilot. The residents spoke, including this council, got up and said, we didn't think it was a good idea to do the pilot, and they did change that. So, you know, they do listen if it's something that's important enough from the residents' standpoint. So it is important that the residents do speak up.
It is, but I feel like there's more weight
Okay.
coming from the council, and they
So what is
speak to
your
you a little
question?
bit differently. But why I said maybe revisit, make a 30-year plan for the DuPont site is because I know part of the plan is to cap it.
We don't know that yet.
That's what I heard.
We don't know that yet.
That's what I heard.
But who are you hearing that from?
I think it's even been suggested by you and those.
I said this is one of the methods they can use. It doesn't mean they're using
Okay.
it. We don't know
And when I
that.
spoke to them, they said, oh, they may be,
They
it
may be
may
capped.
be
Yes, that's
partial
correct.
cap and a
That's correct.
partial,
That's correct.
okay. So it's because caps leak over time, so that's why I think it's important to think about it in a larger
So can I
term
ask,
and bigger lens.
when you say the
than-
30-year plan, I'm a little confused with what you're asking there. What are you asking for when you say a 30-year plan?
Your master plan.
Oh, master plan, okay.
Right? So just for that area, and I know it's not a legal or formal thought, but think of it as a 30-year plan, because those caps leak. And then we won't have the polluter, we won't be able to clean it up, and it'll never be cleaned.
Right, but
This
the
is
master...
it, we gotta do it now.
But the
So
master
this
plan
is what
doesn't
I'm
guide the
asking.
cleaning of the property. The master plan is what we see the future uses of the property, not how the...
Something different.
No, I think she's talking the master plan.
I don't think she means...
Yeah, maybe you don't mean the master plan, that's maybe what you don't mean.
I don't
I
think she
mean-
means the zoning master.
Just think in a bigger vision as
Yes,
far as
okay.
timeframe.
So you know, we have a master plan...
I do, I
Right,
know,
okay.
I have it in my pocket.
There you go.
So that was that point. So I just like everybody to be like really active
Sure.
in this process, because it is so important to our community. And it would be wonderful if we could get that property cleaned, you know, and talk about rumors.
I agree with you.
You know, I've heard all sorts of crazy things, you know, so I think that's what I'm asking you to do.
Okay.
And I think it would be really great if you guys could just stand up for Pompton Lakes in this way and go for a clean 1/4 of our town.
But I'm going to take reference to that. I think we are doing that. I don't think, you're speaking like we're not doing that, and I'm going to say we are doing it.
Okay, one more then,
Okay, that's fine.
okay? So I know you said you were there, but nobody else was.
Well, I can't speak for anybody else, I can only speak.
And also, just, I know you mentioned that it was a problem, but when the NJDEP announce it, or we get it, find out the night before that they're
Yes.
coming the next day, it's
That's
not
wrong.
good enough,
I agree.
you know?
Well, that's why at this point,
They've changed it now, they are calling me, 2 weeks in prior to
Oh,
let me
great.
know. And I said, this can't go on, my residents can't be there in a day's notice, so, and they apologized and said, we'll give me 2 weeks.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to address? Please step up.
My name is Gertie Tackifer, 26 Albert Street, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. The EPA and the DEP, they do meet in that room.
That's correct.
And I know this is being televised. Come, people, learn. I'm learning something.
I've seen you.
It's a learning curve, okay? It's a positive thing. I have ideas, and some of them are workable, some of them aren't. But at least I'm learning as a citizen in Pompton Lakes. That room is going to be used for you, and me, of course. So I invite you as a citizen of Pompton Lakes, and to come to that room on the other side of the office, just giving you instructions how to get there and learn.
I agree. It's up to the residents to get educated. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, my name is Richard Bowman. I live at 71 Q Avenue, downtown. I'm really a new resident in Pompton Lakes.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's been a couple of years. But I just had one observation about this issue with the DuPont. And so I wonder, has Pompton Lakes considered hiring their own expert who is responsible solely to Pompton Lakes and the citizens of Pompton Lakes? I'll go through this. So that's one issue. And the other issue is, in order that Pompton Lakes is prepared to challenge legally, ultimately, anything that is done by these other agencies of government that are not, that don't correspond to what the residents really want. And this is not something I've been mulling over. This just occurs to me as I listen to the proceedings. I thought that was a useful question to put out there.
Thank you. So I'll answer that. Years ago, we did hire at one point an environmental attorney. It was very, very expensive. It really got us nowhere because, when you say against the other agencies, you're talking about fighting the federal government, the EPA. Okay, they make the final decisions on this. It's not like it's not like you have a choice to fight them on it. They're going to make a decision that they believe is the safest. You can come back up because you were up here. They're going to make a decision which they think is best for the cleanup of the property. They don't really ask us what we think about the cleanup of the property because we're not experts. No one up here is an expert in the cleanup of the property. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending who you are, the EPA is the expert and the DEP for the state. So that is, the next step after that would be the President of the United States. There's no in between in there. So the EPA does a lot of this all over the country, and they make mistakes. There's no question they make mistakes. But they're not being sued by local agencies because it's accepted the EPA is supposed to be protecting us. They're on our side. They're not against us.
I don't really think that's completely accurate, especially because now with the administration that's in there, this is a very pro-business and very kind of laissez-faire government we have right now. And so the judgments that are being made, some of these people in the EPA are former lobbyists for polluter industries or industries that are regulating. So to say that they are the ultimate, and I don't think that it's anywhere out of the ordinary for a local government or local citizens to challenge.
But where would the funding come? That would be very, very expensive. Where would that funding come from? Tax dollars?
I think that there are attorneys who probably, yes, tax dollars, the same, but those tax dollars, if you're going to pay money for the police department to protect your citizens from, burglars, you can also justify spending tax dollars to protect your citizens from bad decisions by government agencies that may not be taking as aggressive a health and an environmental position as your citizens want. So, it has to come from tax dollars. You may be able to get reimbursement if you win. You may be able to get attorneys who will do
So attorneys have taken the cases. There are legal, major, big-name attorneys who have taken these cases for many years, over 30 years, going back to lead and mercury. They've won no judgments against Chemours. Now, when I speak to EPA, and I always have to go back to this, the EPA, in the 30 years that DuPont has been working here, have never found something wrong that DuPont's doing. I understand residents don't trust them, rightly so. They're in an area that's unsafe in their minds and probably is unsafe, and that's why their system's there. But they've never been caught by the EPA or DEP doing something wrong. So for them to say they're doing something wrong right now is pushing the envelope a little bit in my mind.
I'm only saying that as you go, you're telling the residents that you're not experts and you have to depend on the EPA.
Of course.
And that's not true. You have the ability to obtain expert opinion on your own that's responsible only of Pompton Lakes and doesn't have other political...
Let's see, we see
ideological interests.
EPA as our representative.
So number one, you do have the ability to have experts, and number two, the EPA is not the final word. Ultimately, it would be a judge or the courts that would be the final arbiter, so if there's a problem. And these, you know, these government agencies often, they have other agendas, especially when they're highly politicized, like they are right now, under an administration that's very pro-free market and is gutting regulations because they feel the priority to them is to create prosperity, and the long-term effects on public health and the environment are getting a lesser emphasis. So I
understand what you're saying, but don't forget, we have two agencies. We have the EPA and the DEP, and the DEP has been under two different administrations, on different sides of the party lines. So does the EPA, actually, that's a good point, so does the EPA. We have to, as a town, rely on someone to give us correct information. Hiring an expert is not going to do that. They'll give us a contact information, but they don't have the inner workings of what the EPA is doing right now. It's private information that we have no say on how they're going to clean the property. We can make suggestions, we can say this is what we'd like to see, but they go by the science, whatever the science is going to show.
I can't believe that the federal agency cannot be obligated to be entirely open unless there's some kind of proprietary...
It's private property, don't forget.
It's private property that's under federal regulation and under state regulation. So that private property thing is superseded by the public interest once they've created a serious pollution issue.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I understand. I just want to give you some...
I'm only saying that, I think that it's only fair to the residents to be aware that you, as a board, have a lot of options, and it's not adequate for you to tell them, our hands are tied, we can't do anything about it.
And we don't feel that.
We don't know anything.
We don't feel that. You're putting words in our mouth. Right now, we feel our EPA and our DEP are our representatives. They're protecting us.
These folks don't...
Unfortunately, they don't trust them. Okay, but I can't speak to
that. But you have an option to change that.
I don't think we do.
If you hire your own people.
And bankrupt the town in doing that.
Well, I don't know if that's the case.
I would think
you could put it out to bid and see what comes back.
I would think the time to make that challenge is at the time when they come up with a plan and you're not satisfied with that plan. That's the time that you make your challenge.
But you don't have a baseline. These people are far from experts, and so when you say they're not satisfied, they're not satisfied, but they don't have the information to figure out what is satisfactory or not, except what they're being given by these agencies that they don't necessarily trust. And that's just my suggestion. I think, I'm a new resident. I'm just pointing out that I think it's unfair to tell the public that they don't have other options to be much more proactive, much more aggressive, much more...
But that doesn't happen. The EPA is involved with many sites, and that is not happening in New Jersey.
What?
Any site that the EPA is involved, there's very few sites where the municipality is saying, we don't trust the EPA, we're going after them.
But, Pompton Lake seems like it's been a huge ordeal, and there's a lot...
It's a small dot on many ones.
This is a very...
The fight for years was to become Superfund. For years and years it was to become Superfund.
And I know, I heard about that.
Okay, so...
I read the book.
Right, so you've read the book. So, through different administrations, both sides of the aisle, everyone has agreed it shouldn't be a Superfund site. Now, residents are not...
It should not?
It should not.
I read that the former administrator of the EPA was very urgent that it should be.
That's untrue.
Well, that's what
the governor...
She's trying to change her profile after the fact.
At the time, she was not.
She was not.
But now, if she changed her mind, then, maybe she has a good reason.
After she was out.
Yeah.
Maybe she has a reason. She's a professional. You talk about professionals, she's probably...
But when she was in, she said she did not want it to be a Superfund. So when she was...
people, professionals, God bless them, they should be willing to change their minds and say, you know what, I was wrong. That's something you should praise them for. So it's not true.
The DEP commissioner at this moment in town, we've met with her, she's been in town 3 times. She has said numerous times here in this building, it should not be a Superfund site.
Okay, one more question. So I was curious, the last time I read about this in the paper, it was, the issue was whether this government, your board was going to down zone the property so that it was somehow
It's
easier
not
to
a
clean
down
up.
zone.
Did that happen?
We rezoned it to a use that we need for future use.
So it was essentially down zone?
No, because
It was, you made it less stringent?
No, it was set as residential and recreation.
Right.
We said we do not want it to be recreation and residential. We want it to be hybrid business.
And the way the paper presented that was
Of course.
that made it easier for DuPont to come back with less standards.
Did you read the whole article? I don't speak with the record anymore because they throw our town in the wrong light and they don't report the people they spoke with.
Listen, that's what Trump is doing. The media is the enemy. This paper tells the truth, okay? You may not like the truth, or you may disagree with it, but the way to deal with that is not to cut off
The
the truth.
DEP commissioner said here,
We need the press. The press keeps us free.
that press that you're talking about, when they did that story, never spoke to the EPA, the DEP, or the town. How do you write a story about pollution and don't speak to the agencies involved for 30 years?
There's some pretty thorough articles that put out a lot.
How do you not
a lot
speak
of
to those
information.
people?
Well, if they did it wrong, then the way to deal with that is make them talk to them in the
I
future.
did,
not to
I
talk-
did that, and they said we could choose who we speak to. That's what they told me.
That paper it's important to have a line of communication. I mean,
I agree.
you know.
All right, I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
I was gonna pass to the elder, but
You got your second. You talked to
Yeah,
them.
but he could listen on.
Council. Just a couple of things. First of all, the comment on the fire prevention open house. Unfortunately, it is October 7th, the same night as the Rotary's taking jobs. But as I explained last year, it is a National Fire Prevention Week. That week is the same throughout the 50 states in the United States. So we try to stay with that night. We've talked about trying to move it. Perhaps next year we could do so. But as of right now, it's October 7th at the firehouse from 6 to 9 p.m. Now, it's not just geared for kids. We'd love to see parents there because it's all about fire safety in the home. And we only go to the schools and hit one grade. I think it's 5th grade. So it's a limited number of kids that see us at the schools. But we had a tremendous turnout last year at the firehouse. The kids liked it, the parents liked it. I think everybody walked away learning something. So we hadn't done it for a number of years. We brought it back because we think it's extremely important, especially in today's day and age. So hopefully we get a turnout. Everybody's invited, the public's invited. We'll have some light refreshments and we'll have Sparky the fire dog. The new one improved, Sparky. From an OEM standpoint, whenever I hear meetings about the dam operation, I get crazy. Yes, I would. And I'll tell you why. That gentleman right there, Councilman Bay, I sat during the preliminary meetings talking about the construction of that dam, right down here in the trailer next to the proposed site. And over the years, and you know this, as people change, councils change, mayors change, every time it rains, if somebody downstream gets flooded, it's Pompton Lakes' fault because they opened up that dam. We have visited with the DEP numerous times on refining the operation of that dam, and we think we have it at this point fine-tuned. We know there's a point in no return, as in Irene. When it gets to a certain point, it's going to flood. But we've been watching it very carefully as we do. We go out and each storm, it's an impending storm that could cause damage, and we notice the operation of that. And we see that it is opening incrementally the way it was designed to do, and then shut, adjusting the level of the lake. The Flood Advisory Board, very talented group of people. They follow it to the letter. They watch it. They're watching the river levels as well as the lake level. And I think, in general, we believe that it's operating the way it was designed. So I don't know what the issue is down there.
Well, I'll tell you, you hit the nail on the head, because Pompton Lakes did not flood this year, and other towns did.
Correct.
All of a sudden, everyone's blaming Pompton Lakes.
Right.
So they called and I've been in contact with the Congresswoman numerous times over this. They said they would like to meet with the Army Corps of Engineers. Other mayors have said this. And I said, well, if you're having that meeting, I definitely want to be at that meeting. Just to reiterate what you just said, that it's working, it's taken years to get where we are. We don't want to go backwards and start playing with the valves again and the heights of things. And so this small group of people she's putting together to meet with them. We're more than happy to come with you. Administrators can come if you'd like.
I'm sure Bill would,
Well, she said a maximum of 3 I can take, so whoever that's going to be.
all right. You know, what the people downstream have to understand, the flooding that we've had this year and last year was not typical flooding. It was a flash flood. The Peckman River, where the cars were on every TV channel floating down the river, under the bridge, that was a flash flood. We had so much rain in a very short amount of time that just came up, and it caught them off guard. That's not the typical flooding caused by that dam. Okay, that's a slow rise, a rate of rise in water. It's not a flash flood, so I want to be careful that they understand that, and that we don't, repeat.
And of course,
we've already done.
We have different kernels from when the kernels were put in place.
Yes.
So, they all have.
We always have different kernels.
Right, we always put a different kernel, so,
All right, very quickly, a couple suggestions on the recycling containers, or, recycling. I remember a suggestion to the bid years ago when they were deciding what containers to buy for the Warnick UAV. I told them that they needed to buy the side-by-side container. So when you walk out of Tony's Pizza with a paper plate and a napkin and a soda bottle, you don't have to walk 30 feet away to put the bottle or the plate in and then go back to the other one to put the garbage in. Now, every 30 feet we have recycling, then we have trash, and then we have recycling, so you gotta walk 20 or 30 feet to throw away a piece of, whatever. So that should have been done, in my opinion. I mean, we have the same thing out here. You walk outside of this building, go down a couple steps, both trash cans are trash cans. One should be painted blue for recycling. Otherwise, what you have to do when you buy the soda in the machine here, you walk down the steps and you sit on the bench to consume it. Now you're looking at 2 trash cans, so you got to walk up the steps to put it in the recycling can, which is in the lobby, which doesn't make sense, and most people won't do. They'll throw it in the trash can. So my suggestion would make one recycling, paint it blue, and hopefully people will use it. People should be taught, if it doesn't have that recycling triangle on it, it's not recyclable. These little scooters that you talked about, the kids' toys, the cars, the houses, they have no recycling triangles on them. It's trash, it's garbage. People have to be educated. Again, it's an educational process, and it's been a while since we've done that. On the lighting in town, all right, JCP&L is notified, we have to track it. I'm sorry to say that, but we have to have accountability. I know the police do the survey, they send it in, and God knows what happens. Unbeknownst to you, the night of Pompton Day, the night before Pompton Day, I called our government rep. I told him we had 5 lights out on Lakeside Avenue, one including the boat ramp. We had to launch the boat for the fireworks. I said, no, we can't see what the hell we're doing. We're going to have people walking on that road after dark with fireworks, and it's dark. They sent a truck out that night, and they took care of those 5 lights. We've got to hold them accountable.
Yeah, I will definitely follow.
From month to month, we got to track the same lights. We don't have to do every single one. But see, within a month's time, we're paying for those lights, correct? By the month. So we're paying for something we're not getting if the bulb is not replaced. So we really should hold them a little bit tighter. The lighting in town. It's very dark in town. And the bid has been talking since last spring about replacing the light bulbs in the new street lights. We're still working on it.
We got the information.
Okay.
So what we found out was, we never tried to replace the bulb, so we didn't have to replace the whole head. You cannot do that. They just got the information. You have to buy new heads. They're in the process of buying new heads.
Because we have several out. Some are blinking.
Well, what the operator told them, this is the only thing they have to check. He said the thing that goes out first is the solar light. He said some of those sensors could just be bad, and that's why they're blinking. So before you spend $800 to replace the heads, let's check all the solar things to see. So that's what they're doing this week.
Okay. And they do make shields for those lights, to keep it over the buildings. I know there was concern with shone in building windows.
No, I haven't had
They do
any
make shields for that. Let's see, what else? Please, and I tell people this when I see them in the corridor or on the street, I don't refer to that complex as the Salvation Army complex. I hate that when I hear it. Salvation Army is gone. That's Lakeside Commons. I think we have to drill it on, or it's going to be known as the Salvation Army complex. So we have to make a little bit
You're right.
of an effort to make sure that's addressed properly. Listen, through that whole development, everybody should have been educated. There should be no surprise there weren't enough parking spaces, that they had to go into the barn hole. There should be no surprises about anything.
It's all in
You're
writing.
putting out, you're doing a great job as council, in my opinion, getting information out there. If it's not posted, it's not printed in the paper, it's not our fault, okay, as a town. So, it's what everybody makes it. I Googled the bid Facebook page while you were speaking about it, or the gentleman was speaking about it. They have a lot of projects on there, including that one, but there's no information. It just has a picture of the building, it says new development in Pompton Lakes, but it gives no information. So Mike Fabrizio has to embellish this a little bit, and get more information on the page, so the postal workers can tell people, go to the Facebook page and read what we want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address us? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? So moved. Councilman Bennett?
Second.
Councilman President Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? One last note I have here, I forgot to mention, this Saturday, September 28th, from 12 to 3 at the Laser Field in Bloomingdale, will be a mobile New Jersey Motor Vehicle Department. You can do licensing, registration, all those things. It'll be on a Saturday, this Saturday, from 12 to 3 at the Laser Field, which is the Little League complex. And according to this, you can do everything you do at a regular motor vehicle department. So that's a nice thing to be moving to see now. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilman Bennett. Councilman Jack Leonard. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have a meeting.
Bill didn't have it, I didn't have it either.
Just so you know, on that motor vehicle,
Thank you.
we'll be able to police posted for, they are not issuing real